Hi there, Brian here. Hope you can hear me above my heater that just kicked on in my garage. Hope so. But anyway, I had to make this little video because I'm in the middle of a metalwork project. I'm not a metal worker, but I need to do some sheet metal bending. I have a food truck and I'm reworking some of the insides, and there's all kinds of parts I need to make and bend in sheet metal of various thicknesses and sizes and shapes. But I'm not a metal worker. I don't have metalworking tools. So I thought I'd build myself a sheet metal brake. The problem I came across was that if I just build a basic sheet metal brake, then I can't do compound bends like for trays or shelving or things like that. So I wanted a pan brake essentially, so that I could adjust the width and slide the bends underneath. The first bend underneath so I can bend the adjacent side. So what I did was, of course, do YouTube research. And I thought, I'm not a welder, I'm not a metal worker, I have to go with whatever tools I have and whatever skills I have. So here's my plan. I'll just give you a quick overview. Here, I got this piece of angle. That's going to be the clamp for the sheet metal to slide underneath. And I got a flat bar, 4-inch wide, 1/4-inch thick, 4 feet long, same as this, that it's going to clamp the sheet metal into. And then I got another piece of angle that's going to hinge on the front of that for the brake to bend it up. But I wanted to be able to have a pan brake. So what I came up with was I'll make some teeth. So I had some 4-inch by 1/4-inch bar cut to various sizes, 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, and I've got a little 1/2-inch spacer as well. So the plan is that I'm going to use that. I'm going to raise this up and use those as the teeth, and then when it clamps down, and I have various widths, and I'll just use a cap screw to go into these holes. I already drilled holes and tapped them with 1/4-inch coarse threads. I got cap screws. But what I need to do is I drilled some holes here and I want to make them into slots so that I can adjust the width and bring the teeth together. And also the edge, I need to bevel the edge so that when it clamps down, the leading edge here is what clamps on the sheet metal, not this back edge. So I need to mill that edge on all of my pieces. I got about 15 or 16 pieces. I need to mill that edge as a bevel, and put slots in these fingers or teeth or whatever you call them. So I don't have a milling machine, so what I did was I thought, well, I've got a router. So I bought an end mill bit for my router, 1/4-inch shaft, because that's what I have, 1/4-inch. So when I did the research, I thought, well, if I got a 1/4-inch, I can mill those slots with 1/4-inch. I'll use 1/4-inch cap screws. And so I tapped 1/4-inch holes in there. So that's based on what I had. But the problem, of course, is with wood, you can get away with hand feeding things, but you can't do that with metal. So I had to figure out a way. So back to YouTube. And I saw various ways of milling with a wood router, but I had to figure out a way to do it with what I have. So I have this router table. I can mount the router on, but again, feeding it in was going to be a problem because everything really needs to be clamped. So I saw one YouTube video where he used a wood router and he mounted it on a board and built a box that he put it upside down on. So I thought, okay, that's a good idea. And so also what he did was he used this crossface. So I bought one of these off Amazon for $65. So here's what I've come up with. I get a piece of plywood for base, and I'm gonna fasten this down onto the plywood. I'm gonna build two-sided, so I'm gonna build a box basically, 2 pieces of plywood for the uprights, and then a post over here to hold the fourth corner. And I mount my router in here, and I'm going to attach that to the top of the box so that it fits close enough to here. And I'll probably maybe hinge it on the back so I can lift it up and adjust this and then put it down and fasten it down. The problem I came across was I need to repeat the same operation over and over again, so I want depth control. And on this router, it's a plunge router, but the problem I have with the plunge router is it's got 2 posts, but it only locks on one side. So when you push it down and you lock it, there's too much play right here. It's just enough. I think it's going to cause a problem. So here's what my plan is. I'm going to mount this here, and I'm going to take a piece of 2x4. Grab one here. Take a piece of 2x4, and I'm going to attach it there and drill a hole so it comes down the center there, and take probably a bolt and put a nut underneath here, so when I tighten the bolt it pushes down on here in the center. And this router has this attachment for a wrench right there, so it's going to be pushing on the metal rather than the plastic, so I think I'm going to be okay. And then I can adjust the depth with the wrench and push it down to where I need it, and maybe use double nut for a depth stop somewhere in the thing, so I can adjust it slowly down to depth until it gets to the same depth, and I can repeat that several times. And then I just use the XY axis here for my getting my milling, so I can bring it down to the right depth, and then I can just adjust this slowly and mill it, and mill the slots in it, and then mill the bevel. That's my plan. So I'm gonna see what I can come up with. I got some plywood and various things. I'm gonna put that together, and we'll see what happens, and we'll test it out. And when it's done, I'll come back and show you what I've done. Okay, so I went to the hardware store, bought some hardware that I needed to make this, and I spent the day, in the afternoon anyway, building this, putting it together. So I used some scrap plywood, the base, made a box. I needed openings so that I could get access to the vise. And I mounted the vise on a base of plywood, and so when I position it, I'll just run some screws into it to hold it in place where I need it. And then also when I'm doing milling, gonna mill those slots, I'm gonna need this flat, so I'm gonna need this to go down farther, so I can shim this up with another piece of plywood to get it closer, because this only goes down so far. So I put some hinges that I scrounged up. I had some old hinges, put those on there, found these latches that holds that in place there. Then I, like I said I was going to, I put a 2x4 across here, drilled a hole. I put a T-nut, if you can see it in the back here, put a T-nut, which is looks like this. That's a T-nut there, and the teeth of it dig into the wood on the underside. So I put that under here and sucked it in there. So that's what's holding the threads there. And then I have a nut that I lock it in place with here. And let me just grab my wrench and I'll show you. So I loosen this off, loosen the lock from the plunge there. I double nutted this. I put the head. It's a carriage bolt, so it's got a round head. That rests on top of that wrench. There's a hole there that it rests into, like a little hole in the middle of the wrench. And so now I just can do this, and it raises or lowers it evenly, and then I can lock it in place with that and lock this in place so that it doesn't go anywhere while with the vibrations. And then I can raise this up and use a piece of, I think I'll just use a piece of wood or something and prop it up, or you know, it'll also sit like that. And then I can adjust this, so I'll adjust that to adjust the depth of the bit so it mills, and then adjust that, and then I can use this to feed it and have it mill that bevel for me. I gotta make a jig that's gonna go in here. This is gonna attach to the jig, and then the vise will clamp the whole thing in place. So it'll always be, so first of all, it'll be secure. And then second, each piece will be in exactly the same spot. It'll hook under the jaw here. And then I'm gonna have it hook the little piece of block of wood I'm gonna build so that this fastens to it. When I tighten it in the vise, it'll hold it exactly the same place, each piece, and it'll hold it really secure. And then I can just use the screw on the vise to feed it along the path so that it will mill it, and then I can crank it down, I don't know, half a turn or something, and then mill back the other way and just slowly mill it down to exactly where I need it. So there's my little afternoon project. Just found some scrap plywood that I had, and I cut it and screwed it together, and I just a few nuts and bolts is all that I needed to buy. Everything else I had. So I'm gonna try it out once I've made my jigs and got it ready to try out, and then I'll come back and let you see how it works. Thanks for watching. Okay, well, my plan was to mill this and let you see how I do it, but honestly, once this is closed, you won't be able to see a thing. I can barely see it. I got my light, and there's this little hole right there to look through, and there's this much space in between. Very hard to see. Very hard for me to see. But let me show you what it did, because I did do a little bit of milling. Let me show you what it did. So yeah, milled the slots for my cap screws. It worked flawlessly, really. I did the first one because I pre-drilled them. Show you. I think I showed you this already. I drilled extra holes in the center, so I'm just milling that extra stuff out. So it's not solid material I'm taking out. So it wasn't working that hard. So the first one I did it, I think 4 passes, but the other 2 I plunged it all the way down, and then I just slowly went and did it in one cut, and it worked really well. So I'm really happy with that. I may take a hole saw and drill that out, because I can't see a thing. Just debating, because that affects my router table, but I can always make an insert to go in there out of a piece of Lexan or something. So I may do that, drill that out the same size as the hole that's in the base of the router. So at least I'll be able to see a little better. But I'm really happy with how that's working. It didn't take me long to put it together, a couple of hours, and now I'm gonna finish milling the slots in the other, I don't know, 14 or 16 pieces that I have for the fingers or teeth or whatever you call them, and then I'll build the little jig for the to hold this piece in the vise to do the bevel, and then I'll run that back and forth a few times and mill that, and we'll get that thing happening. So there's my my homemade milling machine. I'm happy with it. Thanks for watching.